Hello and welcome to Man, Woman, God. I'm Nikki and I'm here with our resident health professional, Dr Rowen D'Souza. Rowen, welcome to the show.
Hi Nikki, nice to be here again.
Now Rowen, I wanted to talk about failure today because I'm sure you've seen many of your clients that go through failure and probably haven't been going through it well. And you know, for me, I just sort of see failure as this thing that we've been conditioned in society to think that it's really bad. It's a bad thing to fail. You know, you're no good. What do you see and how do people deal with failure?
You know, when you asked me about failure, of course it gets me thinking, and it was a great topic. It's a really, really great topic because it is a very, very powerful motivator. And it brought back to me a story that I heard many, many years ago, and it's about a man who should be not drinking. But one day he slips up and he drinks a bottle of whiskey. And as you can imagine, the next day he's feeling terrible, absolutely terrible, as you would, as we do when we slip up sometimes when we drink too much. But this man goes to his priest and he asks for forgiveness and he says, "Father, you know, please forgive me." And the priest says, "Well, you know, God will forgive you, but your body won't. You will still have a hangover." And I think that raises a very, very important point about how we deal with emotions, and especially something as powerful as failure. So, you know, when we fail, we can rationalise it. We can use that rational part of our mind and figure it out and think, well, actually, it's not so bad, and we can get by on that. And we know that God forgives us. So on a spiritual level, you know, failure is not such a bad thing as well. But we still have this hangover-like effect with our failures. I see many people who are walking around every day and they're defined by their failures. They cannot let go of them, and they're living their failures every day. And I think that's because failure is a very important motivator. And I think that goes back to, it's an instinctual, physiological thing. You might remember when we did biology in VCE all those years ago. What we did was an experiment called imprinting. And we took a baby chicken, unfortunately separated from its mother, and we put it in a box with a balloon, a red balloon, say. And the experiment was to every so often, every few minutes, move the red balloon from one side of the box to the other. And what would happen is the little baby chicken would follow the red balloon because it believed that the red balloon was its primary love source. And we have this instinct to look for our primary love source. Now, whether we are acceptable, whether we fail in the eyes of that primary love source is really, really important. And what happens to us as children, and what we do to our children now, is we imprint them with the idea of failure and success, acceptance or not acceptance. And whilst that's a normal part of life, I think what we tend to do in our society is we tend to put a greater emphasis on the value of success as opposed to the value of failure. Because, you know, I'm a failure, you're a failure, and failure is ongoing, and it's going to reoccur, and it's going to happen time and time again. But it's there for a reason. How we deal with failure is the important thing, not what the failure is.
That's very true. So what do you see when you come across people with failure? Like, do they hold on? How do they hold on to this failure?
Yeah.
How do they rise above it?
Well, you know, what I see is people very much consumed by failure. They define themselves as a failure, and they see the world through the lens that they are a failure. And what happens then is they do tend to notice their failures far more. They put far more emphasis on their failures. But what that does is consumes all their energy. So they get all this. They use all this energy thinking about how they're a failure, as opposed to thinking about where it sits and devoting some energy then to doing things right and becoming, feeling like a success as well.
So what then should we do? I mean, I feel that, you know, when you're dealing with failure, it's a character building
Absolutely.
thing. And, you know, I think it's probably very healthy to be able to think, okay, I have failed. Recognise
Absolutely.
failure, and how do I move on from there?
Well, I think the first thing, we have to deal with failure in a humble way. We have to recognise that we've failed. And what helps with that humility is if, you know, it doesn't mean so much. Okay, we fail. Now, if we can show our children humility in the face of our failings, they will do so as well, because it's a conditioned response. We need to do so with dignity, and we need to do so with some honesty as well. We can't lash out, we can't blame other people. We have to take responsibility for our failures. They're a normal part of life. And many of the great inventions in this world have come from failures, in fact. You were talking earlier about...
I was, and you know, this was an excellent story, because there was an organisation in America that's called Trafo Data. And so they started this business because they were analysing traffic.
Yes.
And of course failed miserably.
Yes.
But these two men, Paul Allen and Bill Gates, who owned that business, have now gone on to be, of course,
Exactly.
multi-million-dollar earning,
Yes.
for Microsoft.
Exactly.
So how, I mean, not everyone is going to go from failure to do that, but how do you do it? Excuse me, how do you do it really well? How do you go, okay, that's what's happened, but let's move on and let's go to maybe a next level of...
Well, I think it's got to do then with your support networks as well. You
True.
know, how often do you hear of people who've maybe fallen from grace or, you know, have made some
Exactly.
terrible choices?
Yes.
And everyone then jumps in and condemns them.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
tell them where they're going to go after death or, you know, judge them. And that's a really big thing. Because I think we judge other humans far harsher than God judges us.
Totally.
As well. So I think one of the things we have to do is seek out support networks of people who are going to accept us. And when we see others who have failed, and we're going to see that all the time, is we open our hearts to them and we love them and we say to them, you know, it's okay, I
Yes.
still love you. Because inside of all of us, we're all looking for that primary love source to say, you're still acceptable.
Exactly.
And, you know, okay, you failed, but the love goes on. Because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for this uninterrupted source of love. And we do so, obviously, on a spiritual level, we do so, obviously, on a human level as well. We very much need that. So I think the thing is when you have failed and when you are struggling, seek out people who... will support you. You know, and when you do, then on the other side, when we do see someone who has failed,
Yes.
what we do is we go to them and we continue to open our hearts to them. Opening your heart and keeping it open is the way, is the most powerful way to deal with failure.
And I think once you've gone through it yourself, you can actually show compassion
Absolute
to others.
compassion.
But, you know, it's hard to think because, you know, even if you haven't gone through it, you should still be showing compassion. But I guess
But we've all been
this
through
is-
failure, so it's, you know,
well,
no matter how small or big we perceive them to
Exactly.
be, it's all just a failure.
Now, I have to just read this little quote from Winston Churchill. He says, success is the ability to go from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm.
Absolutely.
Now, I love that.
Yeah.
Because...
And, you know, also someone like Galileo. Galileo, he dared to claim that the Earth revolved around the sun.
Yes.
It was heliocentric, not geocentric, so not that the sun went around the Earth. Now, he was condemned to house arrest in like 1640 or something by the Inquisition, and he spent the rest of his life in prison. House arrest. But in that time, he actually had a lot of time to think. I think it freed him up from having to do the shopping and you do all those things. He spent all that time, you know, really thinking and really making a huge contribution to human thought. And, you know, because he sort of dared to sort of challenge things. Everyone perceived him as a failure, but he held on to that. And he created such amazing things. That's really success. You know, can you imagine if a judge says you have failed, how powerful that is? But for him to go on and do that, it's amazing.
That's fantastic. We're going to come back and talk some more.
Thank you.
We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back. I'm talking with our resident health professional, Dr Rowen D'Souza. Now, Rowen, a few months ago, I should say, you reviewed the book Sweet Poison by David Gillespie.
That's right.
And you actually went on,
Yes.
you did the 1 year
Yes.
no sugar diet.
Yeah, so it was a year ago.
I know, and I have to say, you are looking fantastic.
Thank you. Look, no, I didn't set out to lose weight. Why I took the challenge after reading the book, and a lot of people remember me when I did the
Yes,
review,
yes.
I was actually sceptical. I thought, this can't be right. This cannot be right. So what I decided to do was, I'll do this. And it wasn't actually too difficult. It was hard. There are times detoxing from sugar can be a very painful process.
sure.
You go through many different phases. One of them, unfortunately, I call the lashing out phase. Because it affects your mood and affects
Yes.
your emotions greatly. But what I found, some really amazing things. The first thing is you lose weight around your belly. I didn't mean to, I wasn't exercising anymore.
Okay.
You just lose belly fat. And I didn't know how that happened, but it just happened. The other thing is, at one stage, I realised I wasn't bloated anymore. So it really took away any bloating in your belly, so you end up with a much flatter belly. And it's quite a nice thing. The other thing that happens is your taste changes. And I was telling you just off camera how I have made the mistake of taking sparkling mineral water back to the back to the bar and saying, "You've given me lemonade." Because once you lose your addiction to sugar, your palate changes and things have a natural sweetness. And sparkling mineral water has an amazing sweetness to it. It's actually quite an amazing thing. And different foods will also taste very, very different as well.
Yeah, right. So now you mentioned about your exercise routine didn't change, but isn't exercise a part of losing weight, or?
Exercise is important, but there are different reactions to for different people. There are different reactions to exercise, and on my blog I talk about that. I talk about how some exercise suits some people, but not others. In some people, exercise actually causes them to go into what's called adrenal burnout. Some people deal with more calming type of exercise to maintain a normal, healthy weight. But really, to be honest, now I believe that it's diet. It's probably about 80% with weight loss. So exercise is important, and we do need to find the right exercise for ourselves, have a balanced approach, but it is about diet. And the more and more you think about it, the amount of processed sugar and fructose in particular that we have in our diets has increased, and it is unfortunately driving the obesity epidemic that is causing so many health problems as well. And what I liked about Sweet Poison is that I didn't think it was too harsh. It's not saying cut out all forms of fructose. It's really just saying, let's just go back to basics and let's just have natural sources of fructose. So what that means then is we have to make better choices.
Okay. So now you ate at home quite a bit more.
Yes.
But listen, you also love going out
Yes.
for dinner. How do you make good choices? And I love going out for dinner too. So how do you make good choices when you go out for dinner?
Yeah, okay, and I think there's an old saying that the French have, and they say you need to spend more but buy less.
Ooh.
And I think the same thing goes with food as well. Spend more on the food we eat, but eat less. So I think what we have to think of, what initially that, or immediately what that does is that cancels out any sort of chain restaurants, any restaurants that require centralised preparation of food that then is reheated or prepared quickly in the on the premises. So fast food sort of things, they will have sugar to enhance the flavour and also to stabilise that. Those things are out. They tend to be the cheapest type foods as well. When you do go out, look at the menu, and just make some smart decisions. You know, some restaurants allow you to say, can I have that on the side or can I not have that? My favourite restaurant that I love to go for breakfast is the cafe called Silo in the city. And why I love that is because they produce no waste. It's an amazing thing. But they have the thing on the menu, it's a porridge. And with the porridge, it actually comes with honey on the side. So, you know, you can sweeten it yourself. So when we are coming off sugar, look for options like that where the sugar is, where the sweet component can be easily separated. So because the porridge is just beautiful on its own, it doesn't need the honey. It has a little bit of banana in it, and the whole fruit is great. And it tastes fantastic. So, you know, and look at things like relishes and things like sauces. They're the things we need to avoid as well. Here's the thing. If you go to a really good restaurant, eat everything. because it's spend more, eat less,
Sure.
but enjoy yourself. It's all about good quality.
Yes.
If we only ate good quality food, we'd eat less, and we would know when to make exceptions. And I do have a thing on my blog about when to make exceptions as well, and that's when we go to excellent restaurants. Enjoy yourself, but do eat in moderation. We eat far too much fast food that's got sugar in it.
True, very true. Now, fruit and vegetables, good for you?
Absolutely, absolutely they're good for us. And we need to have primarily a plant-based diet. Now, there is a problem with fruit, though.
Oh.
Now, there's two ways in which we process fruit. One is juicing. And what juicing does is it strips the fruit of all its fibre. Now, the fibre actually balances the sugar, and it changes the rate in which it's absorbed in the gut, so it decreases that sugar hit. Unfortunately, if you're trying to avoid giving your kids Coke and you give them fruit juice, it makes no difference. It's the same amount of sugar. So you might as well give them Coke, because they're going to enjoy it anyway.
No, we can't condone that, Rowan.
No. Well, you might as well. If you're giving them fruit juice, you might as well give them.
Yes.
You might as well give them Coke. I'm not condoning it, of course. I'm just saying, actually, fruit juices are out because they provide a really big sugar spike. Let's eat fruit that's in season.
Yes.
Organic, if we can. Not absolutely necessary. That's the farming method it's made. But let's eat fruit that's in season, and let's go for fruit that for its flavours, not just its sweetness. So before I mentioned that there are two ways in which we process fruit. The first way, as I said, is juicing. The second one is actually a genetic processing of fruit. So what we have done is we selectively breed our fruit for two things, for a few things actually. One is for sweetness. So we take apples and we breed the sweetest apples with the sweetest apples, so we increase the sweetness of the apple. So we actually, apples today are far sweeter than they used to be. And it is still a processing method. It's genetic processing though. It's selective breeding. We also breed our fruits and vegetables and grains to grow in different environments. And so now we're getting things like mangoes, and what we're getting now is watermelon. We're getting watermelon now at this time of year. And when we were kids, you'd only get watermelon for a very short period of time around Christmas.
Exactly.
So we would have these high fructose fruits for a short period of time. Now we have them all year. What happens when they're available all year is we eat them all year. So we're going to increase the amount of fructose that we have as well. And that's a real shame. So we need to also recognise that how we have bred our fruit and our farming techniques is a form of processing as well. So please eat fruit. Let's eat fruit in season. Let's eat the right fruit, the lower fructose fruits. Let's eat the ones that haven't been modified as much. And let our taste buds be the judge. So if you taste fruit and it's intensely sweet, don't eat it. If you taste berries and things like that that have so many different flavour notes, enjoy them. Enjoy them with a Greek yogurt. Enjoy them on unsweetened porridge. You know, things like that. There are so many beautiful tastes out there, but we tend to go for the sweetest, and that's very one-dimensional.
Well, Rowan, I would have to say again, you look fantastic. You should let David Gillespie know how well you've done.
And it does make a big difference to your health.
Well, good for you.
And it's not something you have to try so hard. Losing weight actually isn't that hard. You just need to maybe read some labels a bit more, get rid of anything with sugar in it, take a little bit more time preparing your food, not a lot. Do you know, actually, one of the best things I've found for nutrition, and some people will disagree with me, and it just takes a little bit of modification, is Jamie's 15-minute meals.
Oh, okay.
You know, because a lot of people say, I don't have time to cook, and what Jamie Oliver has done is taken that whole sort of thing, we're going to cook good meals really quickly. Now, a lot of his food doesn't have sugar in it now in the 15-minute meals, and a lot of that's good food. A lot of that's really, really good food. And if you're preparing it from scratch, even if you do add salt and stuff to it, it's going to be a lot less than when they do it in a factory. If we take control of our food prep, and it doesn't have to be difficult, we will improve our
that's what it's all
nutrition.
about.
Absolutely.
Thanks again, Rowan. You've done well, really well, and we'll see you soon.
I hope so.
We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to Man, Woman, God. I'm here with my husband, Greg. Greg, welcome.
Nikki, thank you.
It's been a while since I've seen you.
Straight hair.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Is that a direct result of you washing my feet with your hair?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do remember that comment. No, Greg, I'm sorry to say no. I forgot all about that.
You can always dream.
Now, Greg, I really loved what Rowan was talking about when you said about failure.
Yes.
Had any experience with that?
Absolutely. Yes, very much experience. Yeah, look, he's always so interesting to listen to. That time just goes so quickly. But, yeah, we're not conditioned in our culture, in our society, to accept failure for how we really should accept it.
Exactly.
I think, is it the guy that invented light? Is it Edison?
Yeah.
Edison, I think it was Edison. He kept trying so many times to make the light bulb work that it was failure after failure after failure. And I'm pretty sure he was quoted as saying, I have to succeed because I'm running out of failures. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
so
that's
it was
great.
something like that.
I love that quote. I do love some having quotes about success and failure.
Yeah,
some good ones
because
out there.
failure is just, it's it's not that, it's just another step towards success. It's a step closer to actually having success. Whereas failure in our society and culture is seen as almost as an end in itself. You know?
Exactly. I mean, I don't think we teach our kids, or I don't think we know how to handle failure.
Agreed.
I think there's a lot of rejection
Correct.
around failure, which is very sad.
Yeah,
because you
it
know
is.
what? If we all said to each other, it's okay, let's see how we can build you up and push you up there and get you back on your feet and get you back going again, I think we probably wouldn't wallow in our failure for as long as probably what some of us do.
And a big part of who we are as a nation is sport. And in the type of sports that we become involved in, there's really many times there's really only one winner but a lot of losers.
Exactly.
And I'm not sure that that's as healthy as it could be. You know?
Totally. Now, I've got something here on my phone, I'm sorry to say, but it is from Facebook.
Facebook.
No, but I do love this because this is from Graham Cook, and he does talk about failing, and he says we all fail at times. It's inevitable. We must learn to bounce back more successfully. God's love makes us free to fail. Overcome failure in a way that makes you whole and makes the Lord smile. Don't you think that's brilliant?
Love it.
So
I love
positive.
Yeah.
That's how we should be thinking.
Yeah. And it reminds me of, well, I totally agree with that, but what's come to mind is the word mistake, which is in the same sort of bucket as failure. And if you break that word down, somebody did this for me once and pointed out that, because we don't think about the word mistake, we just think of it as a failure.
Yes.
Right? We failed to do something and it didn't work, or we made a mistake. But if you really break it down, it's a mistake. So it's just a mistake.
Yes.
Let's do it again and get a hit take, you know what I mean? Like, that always stuck with me, that a mistake, it's not as, if you break the word down, it's not really failure, it's just, you just need to try again, you know? Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, totally. And, I think we need to minimalise the emotional effect of failure. Like, the word failure means something very drastic, doesn't it?
It does. It does. You see these marathon runners that would almost die before they actually completed the course, you know? I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why that might be, but I'm sure at least some of them are because they just don't want to be seen as a failure. And almost to the brink of death, they'll even run on their knees if they have to cross that
Just
finishing
to make
line,
it, yes.
just so that they at least didn't fail to make the course.
Now, Greg, we just have to let everyone know that they can write into us.
Of course.
And our website's manwomangod.org.
Yep, manwomangod,
Yes.
followed by manwomangod.org.
Yes, so they can write into us, tell us their stories, God's
Yes.
stories. We'd love to hear testimonies
Bring it
on the
on.
show, don't we?
Yeah,
We need to hear some more, and we
Absolutely.
can read them out as well.
of course.
Okay, so that's all we have, Greg, and I'll see you another time.
Thank you. Thanks for
Okay.
having me.
Well, that's all we have for the show. We hope you enjoyed it. God bless you. Bye-bye.